So it's your boy Mike Official here, and the final six teams that are looking to make it to the Super Bowl are set in stone and are looking to play here on Saturday and Sunday. I have a do rag on right now. My haircut appointment's coming up. I'll look better in like an hour or so. But I wanted to get on here and give you guys my predictions for this weekend. I'm going to start off with the AFC and the easiest one that we can talk about, which is um, clearly the Texans versus the Chiefs. So I got the final score being 28-20 or 28-21 Chiefs. I think that the Chiefs are just going to have a much stronger defensive uh, blitz on the Texans than the Texans will be able to get on Patty Mahomes. Now, of course, Joe Tooney is now being set to play at left tackle on Saturday afternoon, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously, you pray that Patrick could be protected in order for him to get his plays off. But I don't think the Texans have enough offensive power right now. It'd be a different scenario if they had Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico out there. But being that Stephon is out and got hurt early in the season, and it's kind of been a romp with the offensive line. I mean, they are atrocious. I mean, he got sacked. CJ Stroud got sacked last week. It felt like almost every other drive, or every drive, if not every other drive. And, he still won the game, but against the Chiefs, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And I think the Chiefs defense proved that in the last week where they all played, where Chris Jones didn't play, or 3 weeks ago when Chris Jones didn't play, and they still had the pressure enough to get, I think it was 4 sacks on the day, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, I think it's going to be an easy breeze. Obviously, I feel like the Texans will get some stops on the Chiefs late in the game, kick some field goals or maybe even score a touchdown or two, but I don't feel like they'll do enough. And Patrick will probably have the ball at the end of the game and end the drive and kill the clock. And that will be that game, and he'll move on to the AFC Championship. Um, do the Texans have a shot? I mean, any team in the NFL has a shot. There's always a miracle that can happen, but I don't think the Texans will be the team to throw off the Chiefs from competing for their three-peat. I don't think they're going to be the ones to push the needle that far. The next game that I want to talk about in the AFC, which is the battle of the MVPs, and that one is, of course, Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Now, the whole season, everyone's been saying it's a must-win for Lamar Jackson. He got Derrick Henry. And it's pressure on him to win. He lost last year in the AFC Championship to Patrick Mahomes and looked way less than half of himself on the field, only losing by a touchdown, 10-17, I think was the final score of that game. But either way, he has the most pressure to win this game, in my opinion. I think although Josh Allen has had a great season after losing Stephon Diggs and kind of just being able to spread the offense and have big numbers, I don't think the pressure is as much on him as it is on Lamar. Lamar is a two-time MVP who, in my opinion, should win his third MVP. As great of a season as Josh Allen had, I still think Lamar Jackson should be the MVP. Lamar had an amazing season with consideration of having said Derrick Henry in his backfield and Derrick Henry having, a good amount of touches on carries as well. So it's like he still was able to put up monster throwing numbers and also a good amount of rushing numbers where you can't say Josh Allen is the MVP over him. I mean, you can say it, but I don't think it's true. And overall, I think this is going to look a lot like the game that they played earlier in the season. I don't think it's going to be relatively close. I think Josh is going to end up doing Josh things, although he is at home and the pressure is kind of like, lifted from his shoulders a little bit because of the home crowd. I mean, he lost to Joe Burrow in the snow. Did we forget that? I mean, he lost to Patrick Mahomes at home too, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't see the home field advantage really playing into the factor of it. The Bills defense is not good. I mean, they showed some life last week, but you got to consider the competition that they were playing against when you're thinking about what their defense looked like. And this is Lamar Jackson. And although not sure, I believe Zay Flowers is out. You still got Mark Andrews. You still got Isaiah Likely. You still got Rashad Bateman, who I said was going to become their number one last week in that game. And he sure did with that great touchdown catch he had. So I feel like they have everything clicking. The only thing that can get in front of the Ravens, is the play calling, is the misfortune of events with defense, penalty calls, holding calls on the offensive line. Those are the things that could get in the Ravens' way of winning this game. But I don't think it's going to be close. I got the final being 35-20 Ravens. I don't give Josh Allen much of a shot. I feel like he's going to be pressured all day. He's going to have to run a lot. And I think in this game, he knows with the tempo that I think the Ravens are going to set is that we have to score every drive. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And I think the Ravens will play a cleaner defensive game of football where they're not being penalized for ticky-tack fouls and stuff and making it so blatant where the refs have to call it. I think that's what the only thing that the Ravens have to really set themselves apart right now is making sure that they don't get penalized on defense and also on their offensive line. I think they're going to be golden, but I don't think this game is going to be close. And I think the real MVP is really going to show in this game. So yeah, 35-20, that's my final. And then we move on to the NFC, which both of these games are kind of interesting. So we'll start off with the hot one, in my opinion, which is two men trying to prove themselves on the football field this weekend. So Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is a rookie. He's had an amazing rookie season. Definitely rookie of the year, in my opinion. Made it to the playoffs, won the wild card game, is now facing the beast of the Detroit Lions. While Jared Goff is trying to prove to everybody that this team is not a fluke, that they mean business, that they're trying to go to the Super Bowl and ultimately win it. We'll see if that happens, but this will be a very interesting game. I feel like this game is going to be probably one of the more nail-biter type of games up till like the fourth quarter, and then I think the Lions are just going to trot through the Commanders. Although I do feel like if the Lions come out aggressive early and the Commanders get caught lacking on defense, I feel like the Detroit Lions could go out to a big lead where it's like somewhere in the realm of like 20-7 or 20-3 or something like that. But then again, I just think about the Commanders and what I saw last week and what I think their team is capable of. So I'm really, really leaning on a much more evened out game where it's kind of just depending on the drive. I feel like the Lions might have some empty drives, and I feel like the Commanders might have some empty drives. But ultimately, I think the Commanders will have the more of the emptier drives. So I got the Lions winning 24-17. I originally made it 31-17. So who knows? But I feel like this game is going to not be as much of a blowout as much of a, because you also got to think about the Lions, getting some of the rust off and, also making sure that they know all of their schemes against the defenses. And there's a lot of things that you got to take into account. But ultimately, I do think that they're going to win the game and move on to the NFC Championship. And last but not least, I think is going to be the game of the week, in my opinion, and of the weekend, which is Rams and Eagles. Now, the Rams, I think, get a little bit of a bad narrative right now because of the fact that, one, Aaron Donald is no longer there, the best defensive player in the last, some say 20 years, some say 10 years, whatever it might be. And you kind of lose that defensive presence and that defensive captain. But they still have a lot of great defensive pieces, and they have really turned up their defense at the end of the season. On top of that, you got to take into account, and I can be one to vouch for this because I have them both on my fantasy team. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have not been 100% for the whole season. So in my opinion, whatever you saw from them through probably around 10 weeks wasn't their full potential of what you started seeing towards the end of the season. And I think that Matthew Stafford has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder where everyone's saying you only won as a, miracle, and, it was all about, you got into a perfect situation, and, now that situation isn't so perfect, and now you're struggling. And I think he has that chip on his shoulder where he wants to show the world, like, I'm a Super Bowl champion for a reason. And the Eagles are no better team to prove that against, because the Eagles are definitely trying to make it back to the Super Bowl. So I have It's gonna be a nail biter, in my opinion. This game is gonna come down to the wire. It's gonna come down to who can get the most turnovers. I think this game is gonna be closer than what people expect. I think it might start off a little slow for the Rams, but I think ultimately they're gonna pick it up and start scoring in bunches. And you're gonna have some deep balls to Puka. You're gonna have some screen routes to Puka where he's gonna get completely, open and just, you know, do what he does and just extend plays. And I think Cooper Cup is also going to have a bigger game because he's kind of been playing in and out a lot. And I think now it's more of like, just give him we're here. Just give him the routes. Let him cook. If he gets open, he gets open. If he doesn't, then it is what it is, right? We live with the results. The Eagles, however, like the reason why I say this and I say the game's going to be a nail biter is because the Eagles defense is so to me. I mean, I don't think that their defense is amazing. I think their offense is really, really powerful. I mean, when you have Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, I mean, it's hard to pick against them. And for that reason, I won't. But I will say that I won't be surprised if the Rams somehow pull a miracle. I think it's very possible. I think people are kind of underestimating the capabilities that the Rams have as a football team. But I'm still saying I'm gonna still edge it to the Eagles just because they got Saquon, my former Giant, and then they have a lot of other weapons, of course, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. So I think that they're gonna ultimately pull it off. I got the final being 35-30, Eagles, and that's setting up a couple of matchups that I think we'd all be very, very, very happy to witness in the championship rounds. And that would be Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes, rematch from the AFC Championship last year. Can he get it done? Will he get it done? Will the Chiefs get back to the Super Bowl and, have more and more aspirations for that three-peat? And then Eagles and Lions would be the NFC Championship game, and man, I don't know who I would pick in that game. I think I'd have to go based off of what I see this weekend. But yeah, those are my picks. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know what game you're excited to see this weekend. I'm out.